want to maybe just start off with your opening words?
Yeah, so I hope everyone is well. This was it Wednesday evening. Sorry, I'm just looking. I could hear footsteps coming down the stairs, and I think one of my daughters is just hovering outside the door. So whoever it is, Fliss or Harriet, yeah, you can in a minute. Do you want to come and sit with me for a minute? But you have to be quiet. So you're going to say hello to everybody, Harriet? No, you're not. You're going to look away. So, yeah, so just hope that you're all okay and safe. And obviously, I know the guys at Loughborough are sort of in and out of isolation and dealing with everything appropriately there. So to keep that up. It was just really a chance to check in with you all, just to say, obviously, if you are one or two who still have to submit the careers workbook, can you make that a priority to do over the next couple of days? Joao is in the process of going through those soon in this next week or so. So we'll get you feedback on those and share that back with you on Teams. And then equally, I just need to follow up with a few of you that I haven't had a chance to talk to with regards to a progress review, a first progress review. So ideally, it would be great. You're going to have some more to. It would be great if you can just nudge me a message. I'm incredibly busy over the next couple of hours this evening. I've got another couple of calls that I'm on, as you heard, and equally I've got a really busy jam-packed day full of meetings and a couple of enrollment sessions tomorrow, which is me playing my little violin there. But just if you send me a nudge just to say haven't had anything, can we sort this out? Perfectly okay for us to do that, and then we'll just follow up with a call, a Teams call over the next 2 weeks to get that done. And if I did do,
Daddy, you forgot to play Roblox.
I'm not playing Roblox. I don't play Roblox. I play Minecraft on here sometimes. Secret given away. If I did do, shh, be quiet, Harriet. No, wait. No, okay, all right. Yeah, okay, cool. So if I did do a progress review with you as well, let's catch up and just finish that first part of that off over the next week as well. So again, I'll message you on Teams and we'll go from there. So thanks very much. Enjoy the rest of this evening, and drop me a message if you need anything, or and that applies to you as well, Chris. You may notice as well, just to alert everyone, I know Chris is aware of this, that I think the system has allowed a few rogue people into the Teams group that we've got. So just if you do see anything a little bit different or names that you don't recognize, again, if you can just give me the heads up and nudge me. Most of the time it's someone who's innocently clicked on a wrong button, maybe gone onto the Learn Zone group and clicked to see what's in there, and then that's put them in the Teams group, and I'll work to try and shut that down so that we are all safe. But yeah, enjoy the rest of your evening. Good to see your names on a list on screen, not actually see any of you. And do you want to say bye-bye, Harriet? No, she doesn't. So I see you all. I'll sign off and see you all later. Thanks, Chris.
Brilliant. Cheers, John. So you have to excuse me tonight, guys. I've got a bit of a sore throat, so if I'm occasionally have to stop to sort of catch my breath, that's why. So as you're all aware, this evening's session is on lifestyle management. We'll be covering lots of different elements of lifestyle management, and obviously, most importantly in this context, how it relates to the work that we're going to be asking you to do. But I think this is a really, really important subject that hopefully you guys can take a lot from. I know some of you were at the brief session that I did during first lockdown one. You know, hopefully, I know I got some nice feedback from some of the participants in that afterwards. So they found it beneficial. So hopefully this one can be equally beneficial. That one was very much a whistle-stop tour through all the different elements of lifestyle management and performance lifestyle, but this is going to be a bit more specific in terms of tying into the work that's in your portfolios. So if you all have your portfolios open now, because there's going to be times where I'm asking you to look at certain things in there, and you will also be doing the sort of the first inputs on a few of the sections as well, whilst we're on this call. And then the rest of it you'll be left to do in your own time over the course of the next couple of weeks. So the objectives for this session are to better understand the principles of lifestyle management, to understand how an elite athlete plans and manages their time in and outside of sport, and to be able to identify sources of support for athletes. So we'll come back to those at the end, and we'll have a little reflection on it and see if we have actually achieved those objectives. So I believe it did detail this in the email you received, but just as a reminder, the deadline for completion of the lifestyle portfolio is the 25th of this month. So you need to complete tabs L1, L2, L3, L4, and L6. So the only one you need to miss out for now is L5, because that is a reflection on some of the plans that you put in place in the initial part of this portfolio. If anything is not making sense, if you want me to go over anything again, feel free to use the chat box. I've got it up on my screen, so I'll be able to see anything going on. Like I said, I think there are parts I'm going to be asking you guys to contribute, so it'd be amazing if we can get really good engagement on that front from you guys. As many of you as possible, writing your input into the chat boxes, and you guys have done plenty of Zoom calls now. You know the deal. The quicker I can draw that sort of input and feedback out of you guys, the quicker it means we get to move on to the next part, which means the quicker you are off Zoom and get to enjoy the rest of your evening. So I've put, just to start off with the definition of performance lifestyle. This is the definition used by English Institute of Sport for the roles of the performance lifestyle advisors. And I just thought it's a good way that kind of encapsulates everything we were going to be talking about. So performance lifestyle exists to ensure that there are an appropriate balance between the pursuit of performance and the care of the performer behind that performance. High performance environment is inherently stressful, and so it's important for athletes to have a professional, trusted and caring service to help them throughout their time on the world-class performance program. So obviously that's a definition looking at the sort of, real elite level of athletes, which obviously you guys all being here will have some level of aspiration to work towards. So, obviously varying degrees. It's a really underestimated sort of role in terms of its importance. You cannot be any good to anybody, in the gym, on the court, whatever it might be, if you're not managing all the other aspects of your life correctly. And when you do finally get that balance just right, the difference you feel in terms of your training and performance, because of the sort of freedom that will give you, is really sort of empowering. So I think it's definitely something we should all bear in mind whilst involved in sport. So, got a quick little video here which will explain a little bit more eloquently what I've just tried to explain there. This is specifically through the sort of the lens of looking at it through supporting somebody through recovering from an injury in an elite setting. So Mel Chowns, who's in this video, she's one of the old school handball heads. She's been around English and British handball for a fair while now. Has been involved in QB rowing as a performance lifestyle advisor, had huge success in that role, and yeah, I think it's a great insight, this little clip of her speaking now into what that role can actually do to support you. So just give it a bit of attention now. Just let me know in the chat box if there's any problems with the video, and I'll see what I can do to solve them.
When an athlete's injured, first and foremost, they are a human. So we have to make sure that we remember that they're not a machine, they're not a commodity. So we have to deal with the human element of that. And I think working all together to provide that holistic support. So yes, they're going to have their rehab from the medical team. Yes, they're going to have S&C, but let's make sure we're looking after their mental health. And let's also have a look at how best to utilise that opportunities to keep them busy, keep them occupied, keep them moving forward so that they can look back on that time and say, okay, it was terrible, I was injured and I missed out on this, but actually I made the best use of the time. But really all working together and talking to each other as practitioners to make sure we understand where the athlete is on that journey and on that spectrum so we can provide the best support for them at that time. No athlete wants to be injured, and particularly if injuries happen at a crucial time of the year. But generally what you see, depending on the, some injuries are such that they can recover and get back into normal training and normal life quite quickly, but those injuries that mean a sustained period of time, you'll have athletes frustrated, they feel a bit useless, they feel they've let people down, they feel isolated, and if these injuries go on for a long period of time, you can have athletes really struggling a little bit with their mental health. So we have to be very careful of an athlete who's really struggling and the injury could be going on for a long time, that, you know, be aware that they might be struggling with periods of sadness, could lead to depression. So at the very extreme end, it can be very serious, but hopefully we try and manage that and understand that every injury will bring emotions, and if we can be supportive around that, then hopefully that emotional response won't be too severe. First and foremost, our job when an athlete's injured to just be that listening ear, to be an empathetic voice, to make sure that they understand that they are supported, that they have someone that they can go to, someone a little bit neutral as well, who they can just explain exactly how they're feeling. So the first instance is to just provide that safe environment for them. And then the second view is, if they're feeling okay emotionally, is to then think, well, how can we use this time effectively? Because if you're going to not be training for months on end, we don't want you just sitting around. We want you to try and make the most of your time. And what's really great is the athletes are coming forward and saying, I'm injured, I want to use that time to do something in terms of personal and professional development. So if they want to do something towards their career, we'll often sit down and we'll do some career planning with them. We'll make sure that at the end of that injury period, they have got a fantastic CV, that they are up and running on LinkedIn. Ideally, they've had some work experience as well. And that just gives them a little bit of a balance. It takes the stress off them being injured the whole time. They're actually using that time effectively, so that when they come out of the injured period, they've got all that career planning stuff done, or they've used the time to perhaps learn a new skill. You know, athletes going to Tokyo, they've learned Japanese, they've learned to cook, they've learned to play the guitar. So just something else. It's really important not to just have it all about the injury.
Brilliant. So there's a few key points there that Mel's gone over, and I think one that's used quite a lot is balance. And I think it's so important that in our sporting lives we do find that balance between whatever it is we have in our lives at that time. So be it education, employment, family, friends, relationships, all of these things. They're all, you know, equally sort of significant in our lives, and we do need to make sure that we strike that appropriate balance. If you completely invest yourself in sport and ignore everything else that might be going on in your life, then it's only going to lead to problems further down the line, be that, you know, in case of an injury, when you retire, you know, if you've lived purely in that sports bubble, it's very hard to come out with the other side. Sorry, I can just hear somebody's microphone come off mute there. Can we just go back onto mute, if that's okay, just while we run through these bits? Thank you. The main question for me is why is it important? So obviously life in sport is an amazing roller coaster of highs and lows. No matter what level you compete at, the physical and mental strain is always high, and it's important that we're equipped to deal with this. So a lot of what we go through in the rest of the session is going to be about ways that you can prepare yourself for those sort of highs and lows that are a natural part of sport. Unfortunately, I do have another video for you because I just think this illustrates the point that Mel was making about balance really well. If you were in the last session, you saw something quite there with me. I mean, a performance lifestyle, you saw something quite similar to this. It's a slightly different one, but I do really like this this video because I think it illustrates that point about having the balance in your life really well, and it also about being able to prioritize the things that are most important to you. Again,
there's a well-known story about a university professor who wanted to make a point about how we make the most of our time. The professor stood before his class with some items in front of him. When the class began, without speaking, he picked up a large empty jar and proceeded to fill it with rocks about 2 inches in diameter. He then asked the students if the jar was full. They agreed that it was full. So the professor then picked up a box of pebbles and poured them into the jar. He shook the jar lightly and watched as the pebbles rolled into the open areas between the rocks. The professor then asked the students again if the jar was full. They chuckled and agreed that it was indeed full this time. The professor picked up a box of sand and poured it into the jar. The sand filled the remaining open areas of the jar. Now, said the professor, I want you to recognize that this jar signifies your life. The rocks are the truly important things, such as family, health, and relationships. If all else was lost and only the rocks remained, your life would still be meaningful. The pebbles are the other things that matter in your life, such as work or school. The sand signifies the remaining small stuff and material possessions. If you were to put sand into the jar first, there is no room for the rocks or the pebbles. The same can be applied to your lives. If you spend all your time and energy on the small stuff, you will never have room for the things that are truly important. Pay attention to the things in life that are critical to your happiness and well-being. Take time to look after your health, play with your children, go for a run, write a letter to your grandmother. There will always be time to go to work, clean the house, or watch TV. Take care of the rocks first. The things that really matter. Set your priorities. The rest is just pebbles and sand.
Okay, so hopefully that video has resonated with some of you there. Again, as I said, I think it's really important, that analogy of the rocks being the big stuff in your life, the important things, and it's up to you to decide where sort of handball and sport generally fits in with that. Personally, I'd suggest that it is a pebble or a small stone rather than a rock. You can still have complete fulfillment in your life without sport, but given that you are here on this call, it means that you do have a certain level of desire to be involved in sport at a higher level. So I think it's about constantly making sure you're striking that appropriate balance, because that's how you're going to get the most out of your experience in sport. So now that we've had all of my self-helpy videos on, and we've seen all that, we're going to look to what's happening in the portfolios a little bit more. So as you can see now, I've taken a sample of a student's work from the last cohort last year who finished, and this is the diary of what they've done across 3 given days. So obviously different sort of different headings there: a match and competition day, training day, and rest day. And if you go through, you can see that they have input all of the sort of activities and things like that they've done throughout the day. So we've got sleep, getting ready, eating, training. There is a key at the top of all the different terms you can use, and there is also a space where you can add some of your own as well. And then you would fill this in via a drop-down menu. As you can just see here, it's sort of hovering there next to traveling in the second row. And that's where you can import what your week looks like. We want it to be as accurate and as much detail as possible. The good thing about the accuracy is it's just going to identify to you if you have areas where you're able to improve. Whenever you're doing anything where you're trying to make progress and improve a certain sort of part of your life, or certain skill set, whatever it might be, it's very important to get a really accurate snapshot of where you are at that given moment, because without that sort of snapshot of what the beginning looks like, it's very hard to progress on from there. That's the most of what you got to do in L1. I'm going to show you now, because the workbooks convert all your data into a nice looking little table. So if you have a look, this is, as I said, one of the previous students' work, and this is a completely accurate depiction of what their average day looks like. Obviously, it's an average, so it's a bit skewed by the fact that a competition day, for instance, will have very different levels of activity to a normal day where you just go to school or college. But I do still think it's very interesting. I would love to hear from you guys now in the chat box if you have any feedback on this young person's schedule. So I'll give you guys about 60 seconds now. As many contributions in the chat box as possible. Ideally, how many are there's like 36 of you in here. If we could have about 20 contributions, I'll be happy. So so get typing. Anything that stands out to you as interesting, or maybe where they've got a poor balance or a good balance, whatever jumps out at you when you look at this. Not very much socialising straight away there. That was the first thing that I saw when I looked at it. You get a really good amount of sleep. Yeah, that's very different to me. So he's doing well in that department. Yeah, socialising, studying, not much time, no rest periods. Excellent point there. Yeah, good. Sleep again, sleep. Needs to socialise more. Brilliant feedback, guys. Brilliant feedback. So what you guys have said there is doesn't watch any TV. Yes, Lucy, I was devastated by that. Didn't know what I'd do without watching a bit of TV. That's really good feedback from you guys. You guys have highlighted all the things. I had to have a chat with this young person after they submitted this piece of work, because it just blew my mind a little bit. Again, those of you, I think I did show something similar to this in the previous session as well. So you might have seen me go through this before. But this is a perfect example of having a poor work-life balance. So obviously, a lot of you mentioned the sleep side of things. Eating takes as long as it takes, doesn't it? If you're spending 2 hours a day, that seems about right. But then I would say that there's probably room for improvement in pretty much every other area. You don't want any one thing that you do in your life to be completely all-absorbing, and you to not really have anything else as an outlet. So if you look at training and physiotherapy and competition as three things that essentially directly relate into sport, into handball and gym work, as well, that is huge portion of his average day, over 50%, if I'm not mistaken. So you know, that I'm sure we can all look at that objectively and say that that's not ideal. So I think the feedback to this young man was that he needs to go away and, you know, look at this again. Luckily, you have the workbook, which is a really useful tool to actually be able to reflect on this sort of thing. And then he did go away and he came back with a plan for the future, which was much different to that, and a lot more time for himself thrown in there. So on this next slide, there is a couple of questions there. So hopefully you guys all have a pen and paper, or you can make some quick notes on your laptop. I just want to give you 2 minutes now to identify one area in which you think this individual could change how they manage their time. And then after that, I want you to explain what this change is and how it will affect their lifestyle. So I want you to, you know, just a quick sentence on how it might affect their lifestyle moving forward. And then we'll give you 2 minutes to do that. And then after 2 minutes, I'm going to pick on a few random names. It'll be maybe a couple of girls and a couple of boys, and we'll go through their answers. So let's get a good bit of quality now in our answers. I love these awkward Zoom silences. Joao, I didn't see you were in this actually. How are you doing?
Good. Like the rocks and the sand video.
Yeah.
Good.
Good to hear me. You should show it to Bobby. I think he has too much sand and pebbles.
Exactly. Not enough space for the rocks.
Yeah. So just give you guys another 45, 30 seconds to get that completed.
I don't know if it's just on mine, but you have a lot of black boxes appearing on the screen, like two black boxes, one in the middle and
okay.
in the left corner.
You know what? That is my fault completely.
I don't know if it's just me.
It's because I've got the chat box open, trying to see what's going on as well.
So now appears on the right hand of the screen.
Yeah, it's just because I still need to be able to see the chat box as well. And
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
not. Oh no, it's just covered it all. Sorry. Oh God, I'm just on a nightmare.
Yeah, for if that now they can see the different activities.
Yeah, apologies for that, guys. Is this why you do that? Okay, guys, so we will leave it there. If I pick on you, and because of me leaving that box in front of the stuff on the screen, you need a bit more time, that's fine, just let me know. So if we say we'll pick on, well, you just name Miles Gannon. Miles Gannon, can you unmute and let us know what you think?
Is it working?
Yeah, yep.
All right. I would say maybe a bit less sleep, because I mean, as an adult, you probably need a bit more than 8 hours, so he could maybe spend less time on sleep and try and put that into other activities.
Okay. Interesting answer. And so, and what effect do you think that would have on his lifestyle?
Well, if he puts those hours of sleep into good use, then it could help him mentally. But then as well, it could have if he gets nice and relaxed with those 10 hours of sleep, it could affect him badly as well.
Okay, that's interesting. I think sleep's a really interesting one for you to pick up on there, and I do completely get what you're saying. I think there's actually some amazing apps out there that work out your sort of like sleep cycles at the moment, because you know, depending on the cycle that your body's in during the sleep and when your alarm goes off and all different varying factors, you know, you can potentially feel more rested off 8.5 hours sleep than 9 hours sleep. There's so many different factors that would go into it. So I get what you're saying about maybe 10.5 hours sleep is excessive. You know, it is a higher number than most of us are used to, but I also think if he's able to get that level of rest in, then that's, as an athlete, probably only going to, you know, enhance his sort of recovery and things like that. But it is still a really nice point you've made there. If we go to, let's have a look now. Lucy Thormo, could you unmute and give us your thoughts, please?
I said something similar. I said that he should probably spend more time socializing and probably cut between maybe 1 or 2 hours of sleep back on just to try it out to see whether that works or works with him. And I just said the effect would possibly boost him like psychologically in like a positive way, because he will have more social life. And he could probably split some of those like hours for rest rather than just sleep, because obviously he probably puts all of his rest time into just sleeping. So if he balanced that out with rest, you know, he's not always just, I don't know, he cuts back his sleep hours.
That's it. Yeah, that's a really good, thorough answer. You know, I was initially skeptical of you two, but I think you might be gradually starting to win me around on this sacrificing a bit of sleep argument. Just while you're unmuted, just, you know, in your opinion, what is the difference in terms of what you get out of sleep compared to rest or relaxation?
I know, like during sleep, that's quite good for your like muscles.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
Especially if you're training a lot and they need to heal, like that's one of the best things you can do. But with rest, I guess that's a time you can reflect. I don't really know, but
love that.
I don't know,
that's
it's
good.
different.
I think that's a really, really good answer there. So you've used the word reflect. I think that's the perfect word to sort of sum up you know, the process that you might go through when you're sort of like resting and relaxing. maybe after training or after work. It is a time when you mentally unwind, decompress, any sort of thoughts you've got buzzing around your head. It's a chance for you to sort of like sit there and rationalize them, or even do something to try and distract yourself from them as well. Like I would say something like watching TV probably could straddle rest and relaxation as well. So there's things that you can do to in that time to take your mind off it. But I think your use of the word reflect there was absolutely bang on. That was brilliant. Okay, so we've had lots of chat about sleep so far, which has been great. But I'm going to look to Lu Chung. If you could unmute and give us some input on something other than sleep, that would be great.
I said that they could just allocate more time to socialising. Where they get that from is probably best that they figure that out, where they take half an hour from training, an hour from training, half an hour from college if they're like overworking at home, doing extra work. So that'd be up to them to decide, but then I guess that would help them divert attention from a lot of the schoolwork, a lot of the training, so they can just mentally unwind and relax and change their train of thought. Absolutely.
I think that's a really good answer. I've got a question for you just while I've got you on mute with Luke. Is time spent socialising, is that always going to be of benefit to your performance as an athlete? What do you think?
It depends who you socialise with, I guess. So if you're socialising with a coach or like physio or whatever.
Is this you saying that you want to socialise with me, Luke?
I'm just saying if, say, you're like my personal, like you and my club coach, and I spent half an hour after training talking to you about how training went, how the last week's game went, whatever, that would be beneficial to your game. But then if you're socialising with friends, like that could also work. They could just find an hour each day where them and their friends do whatever together, whether they're going out, whether they're at home playing on like Xbox or whatever, just to take their mind off the excessive amount of training.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. Yeah, I think that's a good solid answer there, mate. I think for me, I'm gonna go down a route now, which anyone who's worked with me for any length of time before will probably roll their eyes at. There's an expression which I absolutely love that was adopted by the GB rowing team. I think they still sort of use it as their little mantra now. But it's, will it make the boat go faster? So when you go into your sort of daily lives, every time you're looking to make any decision, like, am I going to go into Starbucks and get that caramel latte? Am I going to go out for a pint with my mates? Am I going to go to sleep at 9 tonight? Whatever decision you're looking to make, those athletes all asked themselves the question, will it make the boat go faster? And they only said yes if they thought that it would actually enhance their performance, enhance their training, all those sorts of things. That is an extreme example, and I'm not saying that you should ask yourself, by any means, you should be asking yourself that question every time you go in to do something. But I think that, it's a good thing to have in the back of your mind, because it does help you think about things slightly differently. Like for me, is going and having a catch up with my friends going to make the boat go faster? It 100% is absolutely going to make the boat go faster. It's going to help me relax. It's going to help me offload some of my stresses. It's going to, release all those sort of like feel good hormones that you get whenever you catch up with close friends and family. Like it's absolutely going to be a positive influence on your performance. Is going out for 10 beers, the night before training, the night before game, going to aid your performance? Obviously not. So it's about being selective within how you're choosing to socialise, as Luke was alluding to before. So if we could have one more, we've had sleep, socialising. If anybody wanted to unmute, I won't pick on you, but if anybody has one that isn't either of those two and wanted to contribute something, that would be amazing. I'll give you 5 seconds to unmute before I pick on someone. Takers? No? Go on. In that case,
could you say maybe,
go for... Oh.
Could you say
on,
maybe
sorry, go.
Could you say maybe with the amount he's training, maybe reduce a bit in the gym? Because obviously it's quite intense with training, and then obviously doing a lot in the gym as well.
You know what? I think that is completely right. I think for a young athlete to, on average, be training for 6 hours a day, is it? Looking at them all, like that is, and then obviously got the 1 hour and 30 physiotherapy on top of that. That is excessive. As when I was being paid to play handball in professional clubs in different countries and that, it'd be rare. It'd be very rare if I was doing more than 4 hours training a day. Very rare. So to have his average, and I know from knowing the lad that it is accurate, to have his average coming out that high, you have to have serious question marks. And as we've already alluded to, I think that the balance that we strike between all these things is so important, and you're not going to be able to maintain your levels if you're all handball all the time. It's really important to have a bit of diversity in your life. Okay, so I will move on from that now. Thank you so much for your input there, guys.
Chris, can I give just a small input on?
You go, Jean.
Yeah. So to share with you guys an idea that I think can be useful, working and dealing with some of the best players in the world, some world champions. What the experience they passed to me is to do each activity 100%. So don't be in an activity just to spend the time and to do the task. So when you go to socialize, you be 100% on that activity and you party a lot. When you study as much as you can. When you are watching TV, you disconnect from everything. When you go to the gym, 100% on that task. I think it's the time is one thing that is very valuable. So don't waste any of it.
Nice, and that is words of wisdom from a man who's been there and done that. So that's brilliant. Thanks, Joel. I was just saying then, these two questions that I put on, they are at the bottom of the page in the workbook on the L2 tab. So when you've completed your own sort of diaries of those 3 days, the competition day, training day, and then sort of rest day, and you have your table, which will look similar to this, hopefully slightly more balanced than this one, then you will have a chance to identify those areas in which you could make some changes, and then sort of elaborate a little bit in exactly the same sort of way as you all have done there really well. Elaborate on the impact those changes could. Okay. So I have included this one because on L3, this is the basic setup. There are lots of other options. If you look at the left-hand side column there in commitment, there are lots of other options. Just to give you, bear me 2 ticks, a bit of a rundown of what we're sort of trying to get out here. So to help manage your lifestyle, we need to confirm exactly what your day-to-day commitments are. Please explain in detail what your sporting, academic, work, and social commitments are. Once you've identified your commitments, you need to rank them in terms of importance, as this will help you prioritize activities in your weekly planner. So this is a bit of a precursor to you actually making your new sort of weekly plan, and deciding what that's going to look like and where you're going to have your main sort of focus of attention, and what things are going to be your rocks and what things are going to be your sand, all that sort of thing. I've done a quick example one on this presentation here, just so you can use it as a point of reference. I'm not going to, in fact, sorry, I'm lying to you. I'm going to get you to do the top one from L3 in a moment. So hopefully you do have your workbook to hand. So as you can see here, my main sporting commitments, obviously I just did it through the lens of me being a DiSE tutor. So priority rank from 1 to 10 on importance, with 10 being the most important to you. So, I've given that 6 there because as much as I love doing the DiSE work, it's, obviously, as we've been talking about in terms of prioritizing the big stuff, it isn't the most important thing in my life. There are things that are vastly more important, like family, loved ones, all that sort of thing. And then after that, you need to identify resources required to achieve this commitment. You can see I've God, I can't talk. It's been a long day, guys. I have checked off clothing and equipment and information. And then when I've gone on to elaborate on that, you will need to identify how you will access the resources and what benefit they will have to you. So just going through it, clothing and equipment, information to be provided by Pathway Manager. This will benefit me by allowing me to come across as professional whilst delivering sessions in my lovely England handball gear, and the information provided will help me to fully prepare myself for delivery of sessions. That's the sort of detail that we'd be looking for in that sort of answer there, just breaking down what the benefits of being able to access those resources are, and then being able to sort of rank it in terms of importance on the wider sort of list for yourself. So if you go to L3 on your workbooks now, we're going to give you 5 minutes to complete this first one. I'm getting you to do this now so that if you, well, firstly, so I can give you an example, which will hopefully give you a bit more context to be able to work from, just not being in the same room. And then secondly, 5 minutes where if you've got any questions, throw it in the chat box. If there's any sort of reoccurring themes, we can sort of kill multiple birds with one stone via the chat box there. Yeah, guys, you take your 5 minutes to do it now. I'll use the workbook from the email. Yes, guys, so Emily, good question there. When you save it or download it, you need to save as copy. It should be an option on your computer to save as copy. If there isn't an option to save as copy, you could pull it off Teams onto your desktop and then make a copy on your desktop by right-clicking and pressing copy and then paste. Hopefully that makes sense, Emily. If it doesn't, feel free to message me again, or you can private message me again if that doesn't make sense to you. You know what? I think I didn't read the very last part of your thing there, Emily. So yes, you do need to open it and enable editing. So if you enable editing, you should just be able to go through and make any changes you need to as well.
Nice t-shirt back there.
Oh, yeah, but it's intentional placement that. Doesn't quite fit anymore, so I thought I might as well put it in a frame. Just a few sizes too small on the old waistline, I think.
1 or 2.
Yeah. The suit they gave me at the Olympics still fits somehow. Must have been bloody baggy at the time.
Not bad, not bad.
Yeah.
Or you choose a different size, just thinking about the future.
Exactly. I knew where my road was going. I have a bag upstairs of all the shirts that I wore at the Olympics, which got torn off my back drawer. All those kits, but with huge holes in. I think they're my favourite ones, to be honest.
Bobby on the other day was telling him about the return from you guys from Greece to the parade, to the Olympic parade in London.
Yeah, that was it's interesting. Good times though, good times. I thought the parade in London was unbelievable. Yeah, really unbelievable.
1 million people, right?
Yeah, like you couldn't see any pavement across all of London. It was just completely full. I've never seen anything like it. Oh, yeah, it's amazing. Just you guys who've been cracking on with this first one. I want to give you plenty of time with the 5 minutes, not to rush you, but if you could write in the chat if you are done, just write done, don't try anything else. And then I will move us on if we're looking like we're pretty much there. So I think that is us hitting the 5 minute mark there, guys. Do people want more time, or are you quite happy to move on with that? Let me know in the chat box. Done. Right, on cue there, Alice. I'll give you a few more seconds, guys. All right, they seem to be coming in thick and fast there now, so probably safe to move on. Obviously, this is just to give you guys a bit of a sort of taster of the sort of content we're looking for in that question. If you've not finished now, absolutely fine, because you have another 2 weeks to finish this portfolio of work, so that is absolutely fine. I just wanted to quickly give you a bit of, because the tail end of this portfolio does talk about sort of the effects that performance lifestyle can have on an individual's mental health. So I wanted to just give a really clear definition of what mental health is, because I think a lot of people, especially young people, do have a slightly skewed understanding of what sort of we actually mean when we talk about mental health. And mental health is a state of emotional and psychological well-being in which an individual is able to use his or her cognitive and emotional capabilities to function in society and meet the ordinary demands of everyday life. So mental health is not some sort of, big, scary sort of thing that people should be afraid of. Everybody in the world has mental health, and we all are on a constant journey of ebbs and flows. The flows being when we would perceive ourselves as good mental health, and maybe the ebbs when we would see ourselves as poor mental health. Well, everybody's constantly in that journey, and some people's flows are higher than others, and some people's ebbs are lower than others. That's just a natural part of that, and it affects everyone completely differently. But I think it's really important to be able to talk about mental health and not always exclusively in a negative way. Like I think the normalization of saying things like, "Oh yeah, my mental health feels really good at the minute," it's something that as a society we should really embrace, in my opinion. But I'll stop my lecture, my TED talk now, as it isn't directly related to the portfolio necessarily. So another term that I wanted to sort of introduce to anyone that isn't familiar with it is self-care, because I think that really ties into everything that we are trying to pass across through this work. So self-care is a practice of taking an active role in protecting one's own well-being, health and happiness, in particular during periods of stress. So I'm sure you can all see the connection in terms of making these plans and reflecting on your current and previous behaviours and lifestyle, how that is really key to self-care. And it's again, I use the word balance again. It's all self-care is all about being able to strike that right balance in your life. Another key term which people probably again don't have a massive understanding of, but this can be the outcome of poor self-care and poor time management, is burnout. So burnout is a response to chronic stress and continued demands in sport or activity without the opportunity for physical and mental rest and recovery. Burnout is a syndrome of continual training and sport attention stress, resulting in staleness, overtraining, and eventually burnout. So, you know, when you're in those periods where life is very, very busy and stressful, like you might have the exams going on, stresses with family at home, packed sporting schedule, maybe trying to manage an injury as well, fighting for your place in a team, whatever it might sort of be, these situations, if we don't manage them correctly, they can you know, start to spiral slightly, and it's very easy to get on top of them. But if you fail to do so, it can lead to what we call burnout. And burnout isn't like, oh, I feel a bit fatigued now, I need a couple of weeks off, then I'll be back. Burnout is a really serious diagnosis, and obviously it's you know, it's pretty much sort of worst case scenario in terms of you being an athlete. I don't want to say like, if you don't look after yourself now, you will burn out, because that's not at all the case. But it's definitely something to be aware of as a potential outcome if you don't manage your time and your stresses and your sport life balance properly. So yeah, I mean, it all sounds a bit sort of scary. If you overtrain, you might suddenly become burnt out, but you know, it's just something to bear in mind. So on L4, there is a question which references depression in athletes. So in the chat box now, if we could get as many sort of inputs as possible, could we identify causes of depression in elite athletes? So what sort of things do you think might happen in the life of an elite athlete which could potentially lead to feelings of low mood or depression? Injuries, lack of seeing family, not achieving goals, injuries again, injuries, bad performances, lack of socializing, getting dropped, poor self-confidence and image by comparison to this. Really nice answer, Emily, I like that. Lack of social life, lack of motivation, heavy repetitive loss. Spoken like a true British handball there, Luke. Fall out with the team, yeah, I hadn't thought of that one, that's a good one. Not getting into teams. Okay, yeah, that's really great input, guys. Really appreciate that, as ever. I'm loving the level of input on the chat from you guys. That's really good. All excellent examples there of, you know, potential things that could cause depression in elite athletes. So in the chat box again, I don't want to dwell too much on all different things that you've said there. Could we again come up with ideas of what support would be available to an athlete suffering from poor mental health and how they might be able to access it? So we've had, you know, them not getting into teams, not being able to see friends and family. Injuries was mentioned a lot. What was that excellent one that yeah, the poor self-confidence and image via comparisons to others. All amazing examples. So if you guys could now write in the chat box where you think you might be able to find support with that. So if you could rate it as, if it's about injuries, write injury dash, and then where you think you might be able to get support for that issue. All right, this one should require a bit more thought, so I will, you guys take your time, and I will just start reading out what we get in the chat box as and when it comes in. Nice. So injury, the physio and psychologist, that's brilliant. So I've actually seen a injury rehab psychologist before, very niche field, and that did wonders for me. But I think it's great that you've identified more than one thing there, because one of the things that Mel mentioned in her video earlier on in the session was referencing a holistic approach, which means that we look at all areas of you and your life and everything going on around you to try and minimize the impact and aid your recovery as much as possible. So I like that you've gone for more than one thing there. So okay, so with lack of goals, we've got a sports psychologist there. That's brilliant. Ella, would you unmute for me? And can you think of any other professionals or services or people around you in your life who might be able to support with lack of goals?
Well, your coaches could also help with lack of goals, helping you figure out what you want to achieve in like your career, both like short term and long term. Yeah. And also like just talking to like teammates and stuff about like what you want to do with your sporting life.
Absolutely. So love both of those sort of additions to your answer of sports psychologist. I think that sort of those discussions with your peers are really important. And, I think realistically, especially when you're younger, you probably base a lot of your decisions on, conversations with your peers. I think it's a really positive thing that you can do. I think that, when we're talking about big life decisions, being able to bring other people into discussion as well, like you mentioned sports psychologists, you mentioned your coaches, and to get that really rounded perspective of everyone's input. And I think that's always the best way to go. So Trent, we've put lack of motivation, so teammates can motivate one another. So that's where we could get sort of support for sort of poor motivation. Anybody else you think could support with motivation? We're looking at this through the lens of being an athlete who, because of struggling with something, is at risk of depression or other mental health problems in sport. So if lack of motivation was at the crux of that issue, can you give me any other examples of people you might be able to get involved to support with that, Mr. Trent?
Coaches.
Okay.
So, you could talk to them and they could motivate you to train more.
I love it. That is the insight that we were looking for there, mate. Coaches is absolutely correct. I think, again, one of the things I'm trying to labour here is that we should never, whenever we're looking for support in these moments, there are a whole host of people in our lives that can support us, even if it doesn't necessarily feel like it at the time. And, one of the things I'm definitely trying to labour is that you should pull on and access as many of those different strands of support that are out there that you could possibly get. Okay. So I can see that just having a little scroll through, you have given some really nice examples there. These answers that you've given now will directly relate to what's going to happen in L4 in your workbooks. So keep it in mind, and you'll be able to sort of reflect back on what yourself and other people have said there. And hopefully it can help enhance your answer in the workbook. So I'm going to leave it there, guys. I've actually gone on loads longer than I thought I would, but it's your own fault for actually being really engaged and contributing really well in the chat box. It's encouraged me to ramble on a bit longer than I should have. So apologies for that. So we'll just go through the objectives there. To better understand the principles of lifestyle management, I'd say that has been achieved throughout the duration of the session. To understand how an elite athlete plans and manages their time outside of sport. Again, I think we've had some really nice examples, some really nice contributions from you guys. This is definitely still a working, like a sort of objective that you'll keep going on as you sort of complete the rest of the workbook. And to be able to identify sources of support for athletes. I think that we had some really nice examples at the end there. But just to recap on them, there is a huge support network within England Handball. We have psychologists, specific lifestyle support, but all the coaches, we're more than happy to offer advice and support in those areas. You've got regional academy managers, base tutors, there's a whole array of people who you can access support from within our organisation. So, if you ever feel like you do need a bit of support with the performance lifestyle side of things, then please do feel free to link into that. Okay, guys. Well, thank you very much for giving me your attention there. I know that I don't half drone on, especially when I'm just talking to myself in a PowerPoint presentation. So thank you for your patience. And yeah, if there's any questions about this presentation specifically, you can let me know. I will be forwarding it out tomorrow, along with a little Google Forms feedback. That'd be great to hear from you guys a bit of feedback as well. If you have any questions on the workbook when you're filling the workbook in, please contact your tutor directly. So obviously you should all know who your tutor is. So yeah, if you go to them directly for any questions with the workbooks. And as we said at the start, the deadline for this, you've got 2 weeks, 25th of November, which is plenty of time, especially when all your social lives have been killed by a natural lockdown. So no excuses there. Joao, have you got anything to say before I end the call?
No, very good. Now it's a good time to set the time, so we have a lot.
Absolutely.
So make plans about when all your life will be full to set the plans.
Absolutely, mate. Absolutely. Cheers for coming on and for your input. You on as well, mate. Appreciate that. And thanks, guys. I can see some of you saying thank you in the chat box. Appreciate that. Yeah, you'll get the presentation tomorrow, and thanks for coming in and engaging with the session.